This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting tonight from the East Room of the White House.
Good evening from the President's house. That is what this mansion was called when it officially opened 200 years ago today. John Adams, the first president to live here, arrived by carriage November 1st, 1800, in a scene recreated today for the anniversary. Adams walked into a work in progress. Not a single room was finished. Only half the walls were plastered. Only one staircase had been built. Running water and good heat were more than 30 years away. What was soon nicknamed the White House has 132 rooms. The room we are in is the East Room. You've seen it many times. The president usually holds his news conferences here. When Adams first walked into this room meant for state receptions, it had no walls. It would have no furniture for 29 years. When John Adams came to this White House, there were 5 million people in the United States. It cost them $232,000 to build what was then the largest home in the country, about $2.2 million in today's dollars, for a home with no electricity or plumbing. Back now at the beautiful and historic White House, the cornerstone here was laid in 1792. Designed by Irish-born James Hoban, it is constructed of sandstone from Virginia. It became a White House when it was whitewashed to protect the porous stone from freezing. In 1901, Theodore Roosevelt made White House the official name. Over the years, the White House has had the latest in communications technology. A telegraph was installed in 1866 for Andrew Johnson, a telephone in 1879 for Hayes. Franklin Roosevelt mastered radio here in the 1930s after Coolidge made the first broadcast in 1925. And in 1947, Truman made the first televised address from the White House. Every president who has lived here in the White House has left his mark. Under Theodore Roosevelt, the West Wing was added, which now includes the Oval Office. Truman moved out to oversee a massive renovation that saw the entire inside of the mansion gutted and rebuilt, and the construction of 2 new levels of sub-basements. Less than 20 years after the White House was completed, it had to be rebuilt. The British set it on fire during the War of 1812. First Lady Dolly Madison rescued important government papers and a portrait of George Washington. And here it is behind me, that portrait, the work of Gilbert Stuart. Here at the White House, I've moved out of the East Room into the Green Room, runs Green Room, Blue Room, Red Room, and back into the State Dining Room. George Washington selected the site for the White House and the architect, but never lived here himself. But it's been the home of every other president, and Eric Ingberg shows you around now what President Ford called the best public housing in the world.
It's every American's house, but it's only one family's home. A home with features that would make a showy real estate ad. 18 acres, monument view, pool, bowling alley, transportation nearby. But like any old place, it's got its problems. The First Lady to live there, Abigail Adams, found a dreary, unfinished East Room, good only for hanging laundry. The first bathtub went in 1853, electricity in 1891. People got shocks from the switches. Harry Truman wanted a balcony to escape the heat. He submitted his plan to the appropriate board.
They said, "Oh, no, you can't do that." And he said, "Well, the hell with them, I'm going to do it anyway." The ironic thing is that when it was discovered that the White House was falling down and they had to go through that reconstruction period, they told Truman that the only real safe place in the White House upstairs was his balcony.
Truman was so proud of the renovation, he gave a TV tour. No one remembers because Jacqueline Kennedy's later tour was such a smash.
This is Dolly Madison's sofa.
Children of presidents seem to learn how to cope and even manage romance.
I had a date, and the young man would just ask me. He didn't have to clear it with my father or my mother or anybody. But I did always have the Secret Service go with us.
This is the most exclusive elevator in America, carrying the president and family to their living quarters. Hovering over them is a staff of about 100, everything from cooks to plumbers. It's a staff that really wants to please.
What do you do if a First Lady-to-be says, "By the way, I hate these rugs"?
What rug would you like to replace it? That's the way we handle that.
The people who work here say they're too busy taking care of the current occupant to think about the next, but you can bet they'll be watching Tuesday to see who the next tenant will be. Eric Engberg, CBS News, the White House.
Over the years, this house has been the scene of great sadness. Several presidents have lain in state here, but also of great joy. In 1886, Grover Cleveland became the only president to be married in the White House when he wed Frances Folsom. In 1893, Mrs. Cleveland gave birth to the only child of a president to be born in the White House. John Adams presided over the move of the U.S. Capitol from Philadelphia to Washington, but his stay here in the new president's house was to be very brief. Just days after he moved in, Adams was defeated for re-election. He finished third in the closest presidential election ever, 1800, the one and only electoral college tie between Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. The House of Representatives chose Jefferson as president, Burr became vice president, and Adams returned to Massachusetts. But he lived to see his son, John Quincy, become president. After his first night in this mansion 200 years ago tonight, John Adams wrote, "I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and on all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof." The 200th anniversary of the White House, part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting from the White House. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.